Don says, finally, of the preliminary questions, one from Jim stating, for the last 3 weeks, I have often been at the edge of anger and frustration, have had nearly constant dull pain at my indigo ray center, and have felt quite drained of energy. Would Ra comment on the source of these experiences and any thoughts or actions that might alleviate it? So here we go. Ra says, as in all distortions, the source is the limit of the viewpoint. We may, without serious infringement, suggest 3 courses of behavior which shall operate upon the distortion expressed. So here is where we find one of the lines that Jim referenced at the beginning in his commentary, and is that in all distortions, the source is the limit of the viewpoint. It's a very powerful insight, because in any distortion that we have, whatever preference, whatever inclination, bias, the source, what is the source here? You. You are the limit of, the source is the limit of the viewpoint. You are the limit of the viewpoint. Meaning that if your viewpoint is, of course, restricted to one behavior, right? This behavior will repeat itself if you don't see and seek the balance. So by you understanding that it's you, right? That is the limit of the viewpoint. If you see that, then you open, of course, the possibility for new information. To see, okay, what else is there? If there's a limit there, if that's not the way of reacting, then what other ways are? This opens up a beautiful exploration, I have to say. Because what happens, and this is from my experience, right? If I'm feeling frustrated, and I'll give an example of myself, I feel frustrated about something. Well, I find out that I have a story behind the frustration. There is a narrative in my mind that is telling me reality is this, right? And it puts me in a position where I am a victim, right? Where I am I'm unable to do things, and this starts to build up frustration and so on. So I become interested in the story, and I say, okay, let's see what the story says. And I follow the story, and it says many things, and I say, well, that's interesting. Then my discernment kicks in and says, if that's true, that's a miserable life. If that's true, then you are a miserable being, and all these things. Discernment and awareness starts to kick in, and you begin to see that the story has so many flaws. You see, and maybe at the bottom of this frustration is the fact that I wanted to do something, you see, but that desire to do something was completely distorted by the story in which the situation was terrible, I was miserable, and so on. And I begin to see more and more and more of the mental patterns, the thought patterns that are telling me or informing my reality. You see, and so my viewpoint begins to enlarge itself, and now I begin to see more things. And now I say, well, let me see if I react this way. Oh, then another story kicks in and says, oh, if you do that, then you're going to be weak, or you're going to be stupid, or you're going to be vulnerable, or blah, blah, blah. And then I hear that story, and okay, that's interesting. So that's what you're telling me. If I react in a different way of what's being toxic for myself, then I'm going to have even worse things, and that's why. So I understand that this is just a defense mechanism to keep me in the loop. Fascinating, right? So I don't need to necessarily react in a different way. It's just that contemplating it reveals even more about it. It becomes really fascinating to just listen to your mind. And so that's the limit of the viewpoint in all distortions, as Ross says. And we can keep going and going and going. This is what it's called knowing yourself. You see, it's the second aspect of knowing yourself. You cannot know yourself, of course, to me, from the mind, because the mind is the one creating this thought patterns. So you have to take a step back and first know yourself truly as you are, or what you are, the presence of awareness. And then you can see this is the second step of knowing or accepting yourself. And you accept everything that's coming. In any case, it's a long discussion, but I wanted to mention the relative importance of knowing this.